What do you like about your work?
So what I like, marketing per se, it's about really understanding what the problem is that you're trying to address and what the solution to that problem is. And I think if I was more mechanically minded, I'd be an engineer, because I like to unpick all these things and then rebuild it up into something that really does answer the problem. And that's what I like about being the marketer of Together Equal. We're all about creating conversations that change the world. So our first product was conversation cards, and these conversation cards are they're just cards that you play with between families and children, and each one has a different question. So it could be something like, what do animals talk about? Or do you believe in aliens? Or it could be something deeper, like, if a man and a woman are doing the same job, should they be paid the same amount of money? Or if somebody buys you a present, should you always be nice to them? So there's a real mixture of fun cards and ones that create more of a conversation. And the whole point behind them is to create conversations about things that you might not naturally talk about, and to really think about things you might not really think about. So we're trying to change the world, and by making people think about things and talk about things. And that's what I really like, that you can use marketing for good, and that you can create conversations, and that you can own the narrative, and you can direct that story in the direction you want, and you can take people on the journey with you. So we've done those conversation cards. They've been going for a year and a half now, and we've used those to develop a school program where we use more of the social impact questions, like if somebody buys you a present, should you be nice to them? And should a man and a woman earn the same amount of money? And we use those as a starter for a specific lesson each week. So we work with primary schools and go in and talk about these things. So not only are we owning, so we are really owning the narrative, we're taking it beyond the cards and evolving that into something where we're going and talking to kids face to face, and then they are becoming advocates for the conversations we're having, and they're going home and they're changing the world. They're talking to their friends, they're changing their perceptions, they're talking to their parents, and they're changing the world too. And that's just from the smallest little card, really. And that's what's awesome about my job. I love it.
How did you get started?
When I was a kid, I used to absolutely love all the ads on TV. So whenever we watch anything, I'd be the only one in the family that would stay during the ad break while everybody else went to the toilet and did everything else. I'd rather go to the loo during the TV programme. So I knew really early on that my interest was in advertising. It was a really, really, I think it still is, old boys network, the emphasis on boys and network. So it was quite a posh place to go, and I don't come from that kind of background at all. I went to university and did really broad business studies degree where we were allowed to specialise, and I managed not to specialise. So I did marketing, HR and law, and I was mucking around, well, not mucking around, I was indecisive which direction I was going to go in. Between sixth form and university, I'd taken a year out and worked in IBM in the HR department, so I had a year's experience doing that, hence the HR. The marketing was because of my passion for advertising, but I never genuinely thought I'd get into it. And then the law piece it was just something that I found I was good at when I got to university. So, but I didn't have the money to go and do a conversion course and then retrain anyway. So after I graduated, part of my course was a 4-year course, so I had to do a year's work experience. And this is pre-GDPR. So the university had my CV because they needed it to help me get my work experience. So after I graduated, I got a random call from an advertising agency, a tiny advertising agency called Robinson Pinkerton Evans that don't even exist anymore. And they offered me a job. Well, the guy that owned it used to go to the same university as me, and he wanted to give somebody else who wasn't in the old boys network an opportunity.
Okay.
And then because the degree I was on, a load of people were in finance and accounts and stuff, so I was pretty much the only marketing major that they had the CV for. So I got the job, which is awesome. I was there for a year, and then somebody that I worked with there headhunted me to go on to another agency. So I kind of fell into it and then carried on. I had a bit of a wobble at one point and nearly trained to be a Montessori teacher, but didn't. And then I had an opportunity to set up my own advertising agency, which I did. And then after a couple of years of that, I was kind of like, I really loved the industry and what I was doing, but it's kind of a bit cynical, because you're getting people to buy things that they may or may not want. I mean, these days it's a lot more problem and solution led, but back in the day it was quite you're marketing things that you might not necessarily believe in so much. And I really wanted to give something back to the world, so I got involved with our local refuge, local to my business that I owned, and contacted them and said, could you tell me what kids you'll have in at Christmas, and I'll reach out to all my clients and see if they can give us gifts so that they have something to open on Christmas Day. So the first year they were a little bit skeptical, but we did it, and they gave me the names and ages, not names, sexes and ages of the kids that they had in. We had 26 children, and I reached out to the clients, and each kid had 3 or 4 gifts each, and I was working with book publishers, video film companies, computer games clients, Marks and Spencers, so all these people, but I just got a little gift each from them. Roll on 9 years, we did it for 131 children and about 50 mothers, because it was all mothers, and it took 3 days. Each person had a huge bag full of gifts, and we had to hire a van to transport everything to get it to the refuge, or refuges. There were 3, and it took us 3 days to wrap everything. So I did that. Then I sold my agency and went client side as a consultant for a while. So I spent a year at eBay and 5 years at Google. And during that time, I carried on working with the women's charity, and they were looking to launch a product that meant that they could have a self-sustaining income, so that they didn't have to beg individuals and corporates for money, that they could create their own income stream. So we were working on that. So it was a baby food. We created a whole product range. We had the marketing all sorted. We were ready to go to market. We had listings in Whole Food and Planet Organic. And 4 months before it was due to go live, the charity went into administration. So we were too late to save the charity, but in fairness, it would have taken 3 years to break even anyway. But then that just left me thinking, okay, and just this is the whole time, during this time, my day job was marketing at Google and at Google. So it got me to thinking, okay, so there's still a requirement. There's all these charities. There used to be a directory that was this thick of charities supporting victims of domestic violence, and women's charities. And by the time ours went into administration, it was dwindling down to this thick, because people were really struggling to raise money. So I was like, right, okay, this can't be it. This isn't the end of the road. What can we do instead? That could create a sustainable income stream for small charities that are really struggling to raise money. And then that's how I came up with the conversation cards. So they were my idea. And because I'm a marketeer, it was relatively straightforward to bring to market. But also that's how I've come to be the chief marketeer of my own company.
Excellent. And what advice would you give to someone starting out?
I would say follow your dreams. But if you really, really want to do something, don't let anyone tell you can't do it. Really focus on it. You can, like Nike say, just do it. You can always find a way. Just find that way, and don't be put off when things don't go right, or if you get rejected and pushed back, because there are rejections and things. And just because somebody does not see your vision doesn't mean that your vision for you isn't right. You just follow your heart and do what you think is good, and talk to as many people, and when somebody is encouraging, really embrace that and take their encouragement and use that as something that feeds your energy. Ignore the detractors. I always say you need radiators in your life, people that generate warmth.